Okay, so we're in the garage. Welcome. It's Tim's time. I got a couple projects I'm going to do today. The coffee's percolating. I got my bacon sandwich. Uh, I know probably don't matter what you think about my bacon sandwich, but I'll show you why I brought that up here a little bit later. So let me get the camera on and we'll show you what's going on. So the coffee is not quite done yet. You see it is percolating, but the color's not quite dark enough for me yet. So we'll deal with that here in a minute. So what we're going to do today, had a Zach ask me about a pointer that he has started working on, and I mentioned to him that I can put some knurl on this. Knurl, a lot of you know, is all over the world. It's a grip that can be put on with a lathe on metal. It actually forms the metal. Quite a few different things have knurl on them as a grip. I have a couple tools here that I got with my Craftsman lathe. These are both Craftsman tools, two different kinds. One's free floating and has the two rollers in it. One going one direction, one going the other, so it makes what's called a diamond knurl. And like I say, this one's free floating. This one is, but it's also in a housing, so that it works the same way. It floats for being on center. Same thing, it has two wheels on it, crisscross, so it will also make diamond knurl. So that's what I'm going to try to work on today, is getting some knurl on this. This is a little bit hard material. We should still get some on here. So I'm thinking about giving him about 2 fingers worth of knurl on this, so that it'll be a grip for this particular pointer scribe that so we'll get things set up, and then I'll give you some show and tell here. Okay, one of the first things we need to do is indicate our part in. So this lathe is actually like the ones that I learned how to work on when I was in school, back in the early part of the 80s. These are old. This is old school tool post, so this has a rocker in it. And one of the things you like to do here is you can adjust this. We're going to put our indicator on. This lathe has many attachments to it. I have a 3-jaw chuck back here. I prefer a 4-jaw. I do a bit of woodworking, so it helps me get things centered up a little better. The jaws are each independent when you turn them, compared to the 3-jaw, which is scrolled. All 3 chucks move at the same time. So one of the first things I'm going to do is look and see. We need to get this part running true as we can. And everything in my shop, not the shop I work in, but the shop that I am in here, my home shop, we do everything is in standard English, if you will, inch, micro, or thousandths of an inch. So that's what this indicator is reading in. is 0.001 of an inch. And it's not so much that we're actually trying to look for a specific number today. What we're looking for today is just that this part runs true. It will show me the high and the low. There's the low. So you loosen the low a little bit, and then when you go around to the high and you tighten it down, you'll see the needle will take it to closer to running actual true. And we'll go around this a couple times until we can see exactly what we have. And now this will be the low. Now I do know that the piece that was selected is going to be a little bit hard. It's kind of like a tooling steel almost. Not quite. It's a pin. And this isn't looking too horrible right here. That is, what, 2 thousandths of an inch, 2 or 3. We can check it over a little bit, and you can pick the high side again, give it a little crank down, and this is getting tight, which is exactly what you want. You will definitely want it in there good and tight for this. And here it looks like we're still running 2 or 3. I'm not sure that the pin, it feels like it might have a high or low spot of its own, which is, we'll just work with this here a second. And we're within 2.5, which is actually plenty for this. So now we will take this off. Now, the other thing we got to worry about, where the coffee's on. Okay, good enough. I am going to, out of the 2 knurling tools that I have, I am going to prefer this one today, simply because it has this backing. This is harder material, so it's going to give me a little more stability when I'm actually doing this. Again, as you can see, it's got one wheel that has cuts in one direction, and the other wheel has them in the other direction, and when they combine, that's what makes the diamond shaped knurl. So one of the things that's important, always important on a lathe whenever you're setting up your tools, is being on center. For this particular tool, I'll show you the difference. If you just had a regular tool in here, you want to be on center a little bit below. This particular one is kind of like, it might be hard to tell. Well, there is this
curvature here where the two wheels are, this little space in between so that the wheels stick out, and that's a good indicator for you to be able to get this tool up here. Now this swivels, so you can't forget that this actually swivels. So one of the best ways to do this is to get your tool in here, get it somewhat, you're going to want it a little bit straight square, but you want just a hair of an angle on this when you're doing a cut. So you bring this in here. Now we know this is on center, and you can get this, you see how this just rolled. Now we can go down here and check and see if it's actually, this is somewhat on center. So get this thing tightened down, good and tightened down, and it's ready to roll. So looks pretty square. Give it just a little bit of an angle. And I'm going to start just off of this front edge. If he ever wants to grind this back, it won't get into the knurl so much. Give him a little bit of space here. So we're going to mark this. I said 2 fingers worth. So we're going to try to go into about right here. So my favorite way to do this is turn it on and then run your pencil on here. Something like about that right there. That's all the knurl we really need. Just like a pencil or a scribe, that like this here. Just something to grab a hold of. Then we want to actually always double check and make sure that once your wheels get up here and about right in there, that you're not smacking the chuck. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So we're going to start right there. Okay, it's actually moving good speed. We're looking good here. We got on center. Now here's why I brought up my bacon sandwich. Okay, I have oil. This is motor oil, and it's a lubricant. Motor oil, as you know, runs in your car, and it's a lubricant. But it doesn't make a really good cutting oil. What I use this for is to oil my lathe with, or the bed of my lathe. We'll just put a little oil on the bed of your lathe. So what I did was I have saved some bacon grease. This stuff is actually awesome as a cutting tool, cutting oil, lubricant if you will, for the cutting. We're going to paint this on here a little bit, try not to erase our lines, and you'll see now what I'm going to do when this starts to melt. Of course, when it gets warm, it's going to make a nice puddle, and let this cut. A lot of your cutting oils for machining, machinery, they are animal fat base oil mixture. A lot of it is pig fat. It's been known to be great over the years. So that's basically what we got going on here. So okay, here's the attempt. I have to make this in one shot. If I ruin this, I'll have to have Zach make another one, then I'll have to try it again. Okay, here we go. One of the things about knurling is it takes pressure. When I turn this in, you'll see the wheels start to roll. And you want to keep going, and then you want to add pressure. A good bit of pressure. And then turn on your feed. And it'll feed right on across. Making sure you keep pressure on it. And we're going to roll this right up to our stop line, and as soon as we do, we want to back off. Pretty good. And right there, we want to stop and back off. Pretty quick. Let's see what we ended up with here. And this material, like I say, was hard. Oh yeah, it's hard. So it made a real light knurl. But not horrible. It just didn't get real deep. But you can feel it on there. It won't turn out anything like this diamond here. Also, of course, this is aluminum, so you can see how deep it got. This was a mild steel, so you can see it got deep from a long time ago when this was made. This material is extremely hard. It did cut, but not very deep, simply because the material is so hard. But there is a grip there, and it don't look too horrible. And it does, it's grippy. So there we have it. So one of the things you always want to do when you're finished knurling, they'll have a high point on them. It is actually forming the material, and they'll cut. One of the things that make them nice is just run a little paper over it. Just knock off the high spot, smooth it up. It won't lose the grip, but just makes it a little nicer for the user. Knock off the tops of them a little bit, and it makes it look quite a little bit nicer there. All right. So today we get to do a double. A while back, another friend of mine, Chad, he wanted me to work on this piece here he gave me. It's a piece of a cut-off extension for a ratchet that he uses when he rebuilds some of our units at work. And he wanted to know if I could put 3 flats on it so that it would fit a drill, so he can more easily do some of his rebuilding. Something that he's come up with. So he asked me to do that. I had lost this for a little while, misplaced it, and we've now found it, got it back. So what I'll do is I'll put these flats on here with my mill, Inco mill. One of the interesting things in the world is this is pretty common when you see any kind of chucks on these drills, especially. You see, they're always 3, and my lathe that has the 3-jaw chuck, I've got it in here and I've got it clamped up. It has the same 3 jaws in it, 3-jaw pattern. So this is what I'll be using to actually put the flats on this piece here. Little bit of setup to go here yet. One of the things that I will do is I'll drop this slug in here. That way, if I drop this down in here, I don't have to worry about fishing it out. One of the things I had to do is make sure it wasn't too tall so that it hits the chuck jaws before it closes down on this. So it's just almost a perfect height. It does make the piece sit down in a little bit deep, but I don't want to be sitting on this rounded, smooth edge. It's not exactly a flat end to be working off of. So we'll raise this up. I'm going to use the bottom of this knurl that's on it to guide my depth. I'll just put it at the top of the jaws. Got a little more setup here to do to get my end mill in here. I've been using this drill chuck for a while. This is not an automatic lathe mill by any chance, so A little bit of work to do getting this out of here. Smack the drawbar and this will come right out. So we set this aside. We'll get our end mill collet, clean the spindle, get her hanging out here a little ways. Felt like that should be tight now. Alright. Now I did have to orient this chuck so that the key was to the out edge, which actually works out pretty good. I will be cutting on this back side using this jaw first. Then the reason I'll do that is that once I have a flat on it, workable flat, it'll be easy to find the center of that flat and orient it to the point of each one of these points on the jaw. And then it will come out, put the center of the flat to the point of each one of these jaws. I'll rotate it, go to the next one, make a flat, go to the next one, make a flat. So it should come out all right. All right, I'll do this little bit of setup and then we'll come back. So working on this setup, once I got the part in here, I realized a couple things. One is I don't want to go, I was going to use the knurl as my bottom. What I want to do is take the flat to the bottom of the knurl, so I don't want to get too close to these chuck jaws. So I have this little piece of scale here that goes to a square I have. I laid it on here, brought the spindle down to it, locked in my adjusting nuts here for the depth, and if we look now, I can go to those two adjusting nuts, and I now have a gap underneath my end mill so that I'm not getting into these jaws. Now the only other thing I need to do is touch off on the diameter. We're not indicating anything here. Doesn't have to be really particular. The only reason I'm touching off is that I will set my calibration, and then once I get my one good flat, looks good, then once I turn it, I will not have to change that, and I can use, they'll all be consistent in the depth of the flat. So this old trick, you stick a piece of paper in here, you run your end mill over until it stops moving, and I'm dragging right there, maybe a squeeze more, and then we will set our dial at 0. So this will help. We'll know how many tick marks I go over, and then I'll be able to get the depth set that way. The depth of the flat going in, and then all three of them will be consistent because they'll all line up the same once the diameter is set. So move off a little bit, get the end mill out of the way, go ahead and go to my depth, and now should be able to start cutting. Go to 0 as a test. And we just barely touched. That's good. Now let's take off maybe 5 thousandths. Let's see what it does here. This is a carbide end mill. Not a necessary that we have to have any kind of lubrication on this. That is a hard piece. And so it's going to squeal a little bit, but that carbide will cut it with no problem. Let's go. Let's give it a little more. Go in, go slow, give it a nice smooth roll here. Alright, we're making good chips. Now I can see what that flat looks like. And not looking too bad. We'll go a bit more here. 2.5. Let's go to 3. It's 15. Stop, take a look how much of a flat I have here. It's starting to look pretty good. And actually that's not a bad looking flat at all. It's got a nice width to it. Yeah, might like that. Okay, so now what I'll do is I will turn this and it's going to fall until I'm right about the center of the flat. If you can see that or not. So looking at the center of the flat, I want it in the center of this jaw right here. Now I'm going to raise that up until I'm just above the knurl like I had it before. The bottom of the depth of that cut is going to be right at that jaw, right at this line right here. And that's looking pretty good. Now I haven't moved off of that 3 yet. And I could probably take that all in one shot. My only concern about that would be this this particular end mill has a high heat leak on the flute, and there is a chance if you take too much of a cut that could pull that up. So I'll probably take that in maybe 2 bites. Make sure we're good and tight. So we'll back off, come back to our 0, and it's 1.5 and 1.5. Make 3. Nice slow motion until you get into your cut. Then go to 3. Not very good. And here is flat number 2. We'll rotate it and get the 3rd one. We can see that we got 2. They're looking both centered up real good. Let's get our depth off of this here. And we'll check that center. Both of them are looking really good. Back off again to 0. Back to 0. 1.5. There to 3. Okay, let's pull it out there and take a look at what we got here. And there it is. 3 nice flats on it. Nice even looking flats. Now, my drill doesn't have a very big chuck on it, so it doesn't go inside of this. But there we are. It's going to go. If you got a little bigger chuck, it will go in there. So now the only thing left I have to do to it is have this nice little file here, and I'll get her dressed up, and there we have it. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone. If you like my videos, of course, like everybody says, subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.